Sorry about that. When did you leave the nation?
I resigned from the nation not long after the 11th of September 2001, and a little bit before the intervention in Iraq, because I was fed up with the masochistic tone that the magazine took about the confrontation with jihadism and its totalitarian allies. It was basically saying, well, this must have something to do with American foreign policy. It must be a revenge for something we did wrong. And I thought, no, I'm not listening to a bar of that song. Don't you tell me that a movement that wants to stone Amina Lawal, the Nigerian woman who was provably adulterous because she was holding a baby in her arms without a husband, is doing that because they want to help the Palestinians. Don't make me laugh. Don't take me for a fool. I know that's not true. Do you think they enslave Afghanistan in order to emancipate the Gaza Strip? Do you think they blow up Shia mosques in Iraq because they care about oppressed people? They're murdering their co-religionists or versions of the co-religionists every day. If you want to think what they might want to do for us or to us, just see what they do to other Muslims. And I couldn't get this simple point across to most of my colleagues at the Nation, so I quit. I felt instantly much better.
Do you ever feel any pressure from Vanity Fair when you write about Iraq?
No, I can safely say I don't. I mean, the editor takes a very forward position of his own. But to his credit, he decides to do that in his own column, his editorial letter in the magazine. He doesn't inflict it on others who write for it. He awards himself the space in which he could easily discuss other things. He and I have debated it a couple of times on television. No, there would be no hint of that. By the way, I shouldn't even imply that there was any such hint at the Nation either. They never tried to change anything I wrote. But there came a point when I thought that not just the editor, as in Graydon Carter's case, but the magazine itself had become a sort of echo chamber, as I put it, for people who thought that John Ashcroft was more dangerous than Osama bin Laden. And as I say, I'm totally sick of that mentality, that masochism, that falsification of the reality. You can see it disproved every day. These people are murdering Muslims in Indonesia, in Iraq, in Nigeria. They're not the product of poverty and unemployment. They are the cause of poverty and misery and unemployment. We have to get this right, or we will get everything else wrong. And we'll be committing cultural and political suicide. And I'm not willing to stand by and see that happen.
A 25-year viewer from Los Angeles, thanks for holding, and you're on the air with Christopher Hitchens.
Thanks, Mr. Hitchens. Thank you for getting to the truth of the letter that I'd sent on Cindy Sheen's behalf to ABC's Nightline. I don't agree with your position on the war, but I very much appreciate you getting out the truth in the sidebar of your piece for Slate.com on August 18th, I believe. Anyway, you and I have been in touch via email.
Yes, your justice quest, aren't you?
Yeah, and you know that I disagree with your position.
I do know that, yeah.
Saying about religion, there are a lot of issues you and I agree on very much. Bottom line is, Mr. Hitchens, you know that we were attacked back at in 1993 at the World Trade Center, and tragically on 9/11 because of U.S. support for Israel. Robert Pappy's.
You know what? I'm going to leave him because he called in. He got in between 8 and 9 this evening. He's a repeat caller. He breaks the rules. He breaks the 30-day rule. He gets in.
Dear.
And no matter, we could be talking about economic policy, it'd be about Israel.
It would be the same, I know that.
Do you hear from him
He's a very
often,
assiduous emailer to me, and he's actually, of the ones I get, he's one of the brighter ones, and he did, having promoted Miss Sheehan, who's, I'm sure, known to all your audience, he did point out to me that she had said, agreeing with him in point of fact, that her son had been killed by George Bush, not by the people who actually killed him, and had been killed in a Jewish war for Israel. And when I challenged Ms. Sheehan and said, well, is that what you're using the memory of your son to promote? She denied ever having said it, which she had, and blamed this gentleman for inserting it into her email. In other words, the next thing you're going to hear from Ms. Sheehan is she has messages from outer space in the fillings of her teeth. She's a flake and a moral coward because she wouldn't stand by what she had actually said. And he was brave enough to point this out to his co-thinkers, so I'm grateful to him for that. But anyone who believes that we were attacked on 9/11 because of American support for Israel is fooling themselves and attempting to fool others. I repeat the question: what is the connection between the murder of 17 Indonesians last week in Bali, or the stoning of a Nigerian woman who's committed adultery, or the banning of polio vaccine by the imams of northern Nigeria because they think it's a UN-US plot, or any of these things, and the emancipation of the Palestinians from occupation. There's no connection at all. Mr. bin Laden does not believe in a Palestinian state. That's why he has almost no Palestinian supporters. He believes that Palestine should eventually become part of a greater caliphate that would be run by people like him. He's not anti-imperialist. He's for the restoration of a lost and barbarous empire. And I have to suspect, not in the case of this caller, I must say, but in the case of people who can't stay off Israel, that there's something suspect about their obsession with the Jewish question. I'll put it no higher.
What is the flag on your lapel?
It's the flag of Kurdistan.
If you could sit back, I think the camera's going to go in and take a peek at it.
This is the flag of the Kurdish people whose emancipation, especially in the 3 northern provinces of Iraq, has been the most spectacular success of the regime change policy. For those who don't know about this at all, if I can say a word on their behalf, the Kurds are the largest stateless minority in the Middle East. In fact, they're the largest stateless people in the world. There's no firm estimate of their population. It's probably between 26 and 30 million, living in Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Syria, roughly where that border converges. Uncomfortable place to live geopolitically, but they've been there for a very long time, and have been dispossessed and, as you know, not long ago subjected to an attempted genocide by Saddam Hussein involving the use of weapons of mass destruction, and are beginning to find their feet as a minority and to express themselves and achieve a version of self-government, which I think is a very worthwhile cause and one that should be better known and should have more support in the West.